Over the years, the martial arts world has produced warriors who dedicated their lives to training and real combat, but it has also produced something very different: Bullshido masters. From military frauds to fighters who claim to possess non-existent supernatural powers, these are the biggest martial arts frauds in history. Number 5. Frank Dux. If you've seen Bloodsport, you know his name. Jean-Claude Van Damme immortalized him on the big screen as an unbeatable warrior who conquered the Kumite, a secret and illegal martial arts tournament. An epic story that was supposedly true. The problem is that almost none of it is verifiable. It all began in 1980, when Black Belt magazine published an article detailing Dux's alleged achievements. Heavyweight champion of the 1975 Kumite, veteran of covert operations in Southeast Asia, and disciple of a mysterious Japanese ninja master named Senzo Tanaka. Those stories eventually reached screenwriter Sheldon Lettich, who used them as the foundation for the Bloodsport screenplay. Years later, Lettich himself admitted that he had taken Dux at his word without being able to verify the claims. Even we couldn't verify the facts. When Bloodsport became a box office hit in 1988, the Los Angeles Times began investigating the story. What they found was devastating. The trophy Dux claimed to have won at the 1975 Kumite was reportedly traced to a trophy shop in North Hollywood, only a few miles from his home. The organization that supposedly ran the tournament listed only Dux's own residence as a contact address. The editor of Black Belt magazine stated in 1988 that Dux's story was based on false premises and that no evidence of such a competition could be found. Officials from the Ministry of Sports of the Bahamas reportedly stated that it would have been impossible for an event of that scale to take place secretly in the country. His alleged mentor, Senzo Tiger Tanaka, also became the subject of scrutiny. Critics pointed out that the only widely known Senzo Tanaka was a fictional character from Ian Fleming's novel You Only Live Twice, published in 1964. His military record did not fare much better. Documents reportedly indicated that he never served overseas, and that his only documented injury resulted from falling off a truck he had been ordered to paint. When confronted with these issues, Dux responded in a way that only a true Bullshido master could, by accusing his critics of being part of a conspiracy against him. Every time evidence contradicted his claims, he rarely retreated, he attacked. And the response always followed the same pattern. If there is no proof something happened, it's because the proof was destroyed or classified. If someone debunks me, that person has a hidden motive. Author Eric Lichtenfeld described Dux's method with surgical precision. When his claims are challenged, Dux exploits the lack of evidence in his favor and transforms it into evidence of even larger conspiracies. It is a perfectly sealed system. Every piece of evidence against him becomes evidence of the conspiracy supposedly targeting him. Dux's defense is a classic example of what psychologists sometimes call argumentative insulation. By claiming that the government erased the records, he creates a story that becomes impossible to falsify in his own framework, because every absence of evidence becomes proof that the secret is real. He even sued Jean-Claude Van Damme in 1998, seeking more than $750,000 and claiming that the screenplay was based on his life story. A jury spokesperson later stated publicly that jurors found Dux's testimony less than credible, including his claim that audio tapes proving an agreement with Van Damme had been destroyed during the 1994 Northridge earthquake. Dux lost the case. He appealed. The appeal was dismissed. He ultimately received a story by Credit Hollywood's polite way of saying, "We used your idea, but you couldn't prove the rest." Even in Hollywood, where invented stories are part of the business, Frank Dux lost. He lied with such detail, such conviction, and such persistence that he convinced Hollywood to make a movie inspired by those claims, and in a strange, twisted way that is almost an art form in itself. Number 4. Ryukarin, the Kiai Master. If Frank Dux's story was an epic lie of cinematic proportions, Ryukarin's case was something entirely different, the most thoroughly documented and publicly broadcast humiliation in martial arts history. Ryukarin was a Japanese martial arts instructor who claimed to possess the power of Kiai, a technique based on projecting energy through sound and intention, capable of stopping an opponent without any physical contact. His demonstrations were spectacular, students collapsing, stumbling backward, and freezing in place at the sound of his gestures and shouts. Completely confident in his abilities, he made the decision that would immortalize him for all the wrong reasons. He offered $5,000 to anyone who could defeat him. An MMA fighter accepted the challenge. What happened in the ring less than a minute later is painful to watch. Ryukaran attempted to project his energy. The MMA fighter simply walked forward and started punching him. No shout stopped anything. No mystical force blocked a single strike. The elderly master, who genuinely believed he possessed supernatural powers, received a beating in front of his own students and the cameras recording the entire event. What makes this case especially fascinating is not the physical defeat, but what it reveals about human psychology. Ryukaran was not a calculated con artist like Dux, or a self-mythologizing figure like Seagal. He was a man who had spent decades inside a closed system where nobody challenged him, where every student responded exactly as he expected. The psychological suggestion behind his demonstrations was so powerful that he eventually came to believe it was real himself. That video generated millions of views and remains, years later, the definitive argument against martial arts based on unverified mystical energy. Number 3. Steven Seagal. We've reached number 3, and this is where the scale changes completely, because Steven Seagal is not simply a martial arts fraud. He is practically an institution of deception, a man who spent decades building layer upon layer of questionable claims with a consistency that, if applied to something honest, would be impressive. Seagal publicly claimed to have trained with Morihei Ueshiba, the founder of Aikido. The problem? Ueshiba died in 1969, when Seagal was only 17 years old and still living in the United States. For the story to be true, he would have had to be living alone in Japan as a teenager. He also claimed to have worked for the CIA and trained intelligence operatives. His ex-wife was blunt about that assertion. He was never in the CIA. He claimed to have confronted the Yakuza with assistance from the American Mafia. No evidence. He claimed to be one of the world's foremost experts on antique swords and to have been consulted by auction houses for authentication work. Again, no verifiable credentials. But the incident that truly defines Seagal's reputation within the martial arts community allegedly took place on the set of Out for Justice in 1991. Seagal reportedly told members of the production crew that, thanks to his Aikido training, he was immune to chokeholds that nobody could render him unconscious with a neck restraint. Gene LaBelle, a legendary American judoka and stunt coordinator working on the film, overheard the claim, and he invited Seagal to prove it. According to multiple accounts from people who were reportedly present, LaBelle secured a chokehold and Seagal lost consciousness. What allegedly happened next became one of the most repeated stories in martial arts circles worldwide. He supposedly soiled himself. Seagal has denied the story entirely and referred to LaBelle as a pathological liar. LaBelle, for his part, never explicitly confirmed or denied the tale, taking the full truth of the incident with him when he passed away in 2022. Yet dozens of witnesses have been cited over the years, and nearly every version of the story points in the same direction. What makes the Seagal case so revealing is not any single claim, it's the pattern. Every time reality challenges the narrative, another layer of personal mythology is added. He is a man who appears to have spent decades believing his own legend, which makes him simultaneously more fascinating, more dangerous, and ultimately more tragic than the average martial arts imposter. Number 2, Jay Queiroz. And now we arrive at number 2, perhaps the most disturbing case on this list, because it unfolded in the most sacred place for any martial artist, his own dojo, in front of his own students. Jay owned a Brazilian jiu-jitsu academy. He presented himself as a black belt and built an entire school around that claim. Students trusted him, paid tuition, and trained under his authority. The problem? He wasn't a black belt. He wasn't what he claimed to be. Instructor Mike Palladino, who was familiar with the Brazilian jiu-jitsu community, decided to go there in person. He didn't send a message. He didn't make a phone call. He didn't post on social media. He walked directly into the academy, during class, and in front of every student, to confront Queiroz and find out the truth for himself. What followed became one of the most uncomfortable scenes ever captured on video inside a martial arts school. Palladino demonstrated, in front of everyone present, that Queiroz did not possess the technical knowledge expected of a legitimate black belt. That he struggled with basic concepts. that he lacked the command of fundamental techniques expected at that level. The camera showed everything. Every hesitation, every mistake, every gap in knowledge became visible to the very students who had trusted him as their instructor. In martial arts, losing a fight is one thing. Even champions lose. Being exposed as someone who never earned the rank you claim to hold is something entirely different. Because belts are more than pieces of fabric. They represent years of sacrifice, training, competition, and trust. When someone falsely claims that rank, they are not simply exaggerating their skills. They are borrowing credibility that belongs to someone else. And that is what makes the Jay case so unforgettable. It wasn't uncovered by journalists. It wasn't revealed through a lengthy investigation. It collapsed the moment someone with real knowledge walked through the front door and asked a few simple questions. Number 1, George Dillman. This is the most visceral case on the entire list. There is no ambiguity. There is no debate. Just a video that doesn't lie. Dillman was, for years, a respected figure within the American karate circuit. He won tournaments, trained thousands of students, and built a solid reputation. But at some point, he decided that wasn't enough. His ego spiraled out of control, and in an effort to enlarge his legend, he began publicly claiming that he had been a teacher and mentor to none other than Bruce Lee and the legendary Muhammad Ali. Then he went even further. He began promoting a technique known as the no-touch knockout, claiming that he could knock out any opponent without making physical contact, simply by channeling his chi energy. His demonstrations were impressive to those who wanted to believe. His own students would collapse to the floor, convulse, and appear to lose consciousness without ever being touched. The problem, as with everything in this world, is that reality does not negotiate with chi. National Geographic decided to test his claims on camera. The result was broadcast to the entire world. When Dillman attempted to use his no-touch knockout on a skeptic who was not one of his students, absolutely nothing happened. The man simply stared at him. No collapse, no convulsions, no mystical energy, nothing. The explanation Dillman offered on camera became one of the most quoted lines in the history of Bullshido. He claimed that the skeptic's tongue was positioned in a way that canceled out his chi energy. The tongue was in the wrong position. What Dillman never wanted to acknowledge, and what virtually any psychologist can explain with ease, is that his demonstrations worked entirely through psychological suggestion. His own students, conditioned by years of training under his authority, unconsciously responded to the expectations of their teacher. A skeptic without that conditioning simply did not fall, because there was nothing real causing him to fall. The National Geographic footage became one of the most viral martial arts clips ever released. Today, it remains the definitive reference whenever someone wants to explain what Bullshido actually is. These 5 cases all share a common denominator: an ego without limits eventually colliding with reality. Some built empires on their false claims. Others ended up publicly humiliated on camera. But all of them left behind a lesson that the martial arts world should never forget. Authenticity is not something you declare, it's something you demonstrate. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, here is our series on the deadliest and most legitimate American martial artists in Hollywood. The contrast is genuinely worth seeing. Discover the most lethal fighters America has ever produced. Support the channel with your valuable like, share the video, and subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you in that video.